Police in California are working to figure out why a man killed his wife and 4 others before turning the gun on himself.
And there are more flooding concerns in downtown Madison after someone stole 7 water pumps along Lake Monona.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 3 This Morning. It's Thursday, September 13th. We all just threw up our hands. Who is stealing water pumps?
They've got to be worth
flooding.
They've got to be worth some money. We're going to tell you how much the police had to pay to replace all of those, you know?
Oh no.
Yeah, not good.
Not a good thing.
Happy news though. The weather.
Yeah, no more rain in the forecast.
You might not need those pumps.
Exactly. Well, things are slowly starting to dry out, but we're not going to add any rain to the area, which is good news. The forecast continues dry. Here's a look from the WISC-TV Skycam. Sun comes up in about 34 minutes to be exact. We have clear skies and a beautiful day ahead. No issues with fog this morning. Winds are calm, skies are clear. Our temperature is 54 degrees. Temps over the next 12 hours. Hey, my picture kind of matches the sunrise this morning.
It really does.
Kind of a cool coincidence. 81 is the high this afternoon, just like yesterday. Your first alert traffic update this morning will show you what's happening on the roads. We're not seeing any major slowdowns just yet. Volume is still relatively low at this hour. No accidents to report around the area. I looked all around southern Wisconsin, so you're still going at posted speeds as you travel into Madison.
I know we've got another week of gorgeous weather, but if you want to cue this up for the rest of the month, I think we'll be all right with that.
You're a big fan? Yeah.
We're a big fan.
We'll see what we can do.
All right. Thanks, Hattie.
You're welcome.
We start this morning in Bakersfield, California, where 5 people are dead following a mass shooting overnight. Officers say the gunman walked into the truck company where his wife worked around closing time yesterday, killing that woman and another man. He then went into a home and shot another couple people before stealing a car. That suspect eventually shot himself in the chest when a deputy pulled him over, and he died as a result. Now, investigators say this was not random, but the shooter's motive is unclear. CBS This Morning will have much more on this case coming up after 7. Meanwhile, Madison police are looking for whoever is behind shots fired on the Near East Side overnight. Officers responded to East Mifflin Street just off East Washington around 2:30 this morning. They believe a 27-year-old man was the target of this alleged shots fired incident, but nobody was hurt and police did not find any damage.
County Highway A in the town of Dunkirk is back open this morning after a nearby structure fire shut it down for 2.5 hours yesterday. Crews from a number of towns were on scene just before 4 yesterday afternoon. Investigators think the owner was burning leftover construction materials when the fire spread to a nearby tobacco shed. Its building and its contents were a complete loss, costing around $45,000 in damage. Nobody there was hurt. A flooding update this morning for people living here in Madison. Lake Monona is going down, but city leaders say it's still 5 inches above the 100-year lake level. That has them warning homeowners along the water to keep their sandbags in place for now. All 3 boat launches in the city of Monona are also still closed right now. A slow no wake order is in effect too.
Madison police are looking for the person who stole those 7 pumps we were talking about along Lake Monona this week, leaving only one working to get water off a popular downtown bike path. That stretch of the Capital City Trail near the Monona Terrace is back open this morning after being closed until the afternoon rush hour yesterday. The city spent about $1,000 to replace those pumps that went missing overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. Police are using security footage from the terrace to track down any suspects. But if you know anything about where these missing water pumps might be, you're asked to call the police department.
A woman's family is blaming a lack of resources on her death after she was evacuated from her senior apartment last month during the flooding. Linda Rasmussen was a resident at Prairie Park on Madison's west side. Those apartments were evacuated on August 23rd after flooding ruined the building's entire electrical system. She had a heart attack on Friday and died. Our Rose Schmidt talked to her just 2 weeks ago when she was advocating for her neighbors in the wake of all of that flooding.
We've got to deal with our health issues. We've got to pay our bills. We don't need this type of stress. I would not be surprised, Rose, if this situation will contribute to the deaths of some of those residents.
Her sister Lynette tells us stress, inconvenience, and a lack of facilities contributed to Linda's death. Greystone Property Management says it didn't know about Linda's situation. Prairie Park's first-floor residents, meanwhile, are still waiting to go home as the installation of new electrical meters is expected to be finished sometime this week. People on the second and third floors, though, won't be able to move back in until there's a working elevator.
It's almost 6:05 on this Thursday morning. All of those flood-damaged cars around Wisconsin and soon the ones that are going to be drenched by Hurricane Florence out east could all end up on the used car market. There seems to be a surge of those after these big storms.
Yeah, with cars that might work fine at first, then cause some serious headaches later down the road for you. Christina Laurie tells us some of those cars are already at dealership lots this morning. She's live with advice on what we should be looking for. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Leah and Danica. Flood damaged cars that have been totaled should have a salvage title, but sellers don't always follow those guidelines, according to AAA. In many cases, insurance companies total flood damaged cars and sell them at auction. Instead of being disassembled for parts by salvage companies, some of those vehicles are bought by people who restore them to operating condition and resell them to unsuspecting customers. Buyers should also know that flood damaged cars can be shipped anywhere for resale and continue to appear in the marketplace for many months following major floods.
The bigger challenge is for vehicles that maybe never did get inspected or never did get salvaged, but did experience some damage. Things like corrosion to the electrical system, or just some water and some mold in the vehicle that doesn't affect the performance of the vehicle necessarily. Maybe it was never checked out by a mechanic, it was never reported to the insurance company, and therefore it was never flagged on the title.
AAA also recommends that prospective buyers purchase a vehicle history report like the ones available from Carfax. While reports like those can't catch everything, they usually show when a car has been issued a salvage title, which is a giveaway that it's had a major problem in its past. Now, you don't always have to turn to the experts to check out if a car that you're buying secondhand is flood damaged or not. There are 4 things that you can easily look for when you go to a dealership. I'll break those down coming up in the next half hour of News 3 this morning.
I know I just bought a used car right before all of this flooding, so glad to hear about these tips for other folks. All right, Christina, thanks.
6:07 right now, and speaking of flooded out and flood damage, there is a reminder from emergency management officials to report that damage if you have not already. Counties will submit their final reports to the state by Monday, which means they'll be working over the next few days to finish out assessments. Those assessments determine which areas may be eligible for federal disaster assistance. You can call 211 or contact your county's emergency management director.
6:07 your time right now. The drug that has helped save countless lives during overdose episodes is skyrocketing in price. Dr. Mandira Mehra is in this morning to talk about what that means for addicts and the health professionals trying to help them.
And Hattie is loving her break from the wet weather here in southern Wisconsin, and we love about hearing about it, that is. She has the best news of the day and really, quite frankly, the week in her first alert forecast when News 3 This Morning returns.
Good morning from the Hattie-O patio. All is quiet here. We have sunshine in our forecast once again and warm temperatures. The major weather story, though, is Hurricane Florence. And I wanted to show you the track of this hurricane. It emerged as a wave off the west coast of Africa way back on August 30th. It was the first major hurricane of the 2018 Atlantic season. And here's where it currently is. It is about 200 miles offshore of Wilmington to the east-southeast. It has maximum sustained winds at 110 miles an hour. And right now it's moving at about 15 miles an hour to the north and west. Now that movement is expected to slow down through the day today and especially into tomorrow as this hurricane makes landfall. It's not expected to weaken too much over the next day or so. So it's expected to make landfall as a Category 2 hurricane and then hug the coastline, which could be problematic because it could stay strong for a little bit longer if it has access to those warmer ocean waters. As it weakens, though, and moves further onshore, it will still be a major rainmaker through the weekend right into the early part of next week. Here's a look at rain potential with this particular storm, and those yellow shaded areas have really expanded over the last 24 hours. Yesterday at this time, the highest rain looked to stay pretty close to the coastline, but now it's looking further to extend further inland. Widespread 15 to 20 inch rain totals are expected with some isolated amounts up to 40 inches possible. So the threats from Hurricane Florence, the main threats are going to be the storm surge and the catastrophic heavy rain. The storm surge, if it occurs at peak tide time, up to 13 inches possible. Life-threatening flash flooding is expected, and of course hurricane force winds and a few tornadoes possible, but the main threats will come from that water that is associated with this hurricane. You can see the outer bands of the storm already getting pretty close to the coastline, and now a tornado watch has been issued for parts of coastal North Carolina. Again, as the storm makes landfall, we'll watch the right upper quadrant of the storm as it moves onto land. That will be the most dangerous place and where we would look for severe thunderstorms or even tornadoes. Elsewhere across the country, though, things are pretty quiet, and especially around here. The Edgewater Skycam showing you a beautiful sunrise this morning here in Madison and all of southern Wisconsin. Nothing showing up on the satellite and radar map here. I am watching a low deck of clouds that's pretty tough to see on this satellite map, but it's in southwestern Michigan and parts of Indiana, and it's expanding to the north and west. It may clip southeastern Wisconsin for a time this morning and keep temperatures down just a little bit there today. Our forecast, though, starts with temps in the 50s this morning. Future track will show you a pretty nice warm up through the day. Temperatures should climb pretty close to 80 here in Madison and points to the west. You see that it is significantly cooler, though, along the lakeshore today due to that threat for cloud cover. Temps will cool down pretty quickly this evening. Overnight will bottom out once again in the 50s. Here's a look at your extended forecast then. We have temperatures that will top right around 80 going into the first part of next week. Rain chances are back in the forecast starting on Tuesday. Now let's get a look at your first alert traffic maps this morning with Josh Tim. Good morning, Josh.
Hey guys, a great start on the Beltline this morning. No major delays showing up heading east or westbound. Just a few brake lights beginning to pop up near the Stoughton Road exit. Checking out some other routes here in Dane County. Some of the usual slowdowns on northbound side of Rona Road approaching the Beltline, but otherwise things are moving well. No delays downtown near the Capitol and UW campus. Volume shouldn't be a factor at least for another hour or so. And other main routes heading into Madison, they're cruising along at the usual speeds with no crashes or delays. Your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
All right, thanks Josh, thanks Hattie. 6:15 your time now. Just yesterday, Madison Police Chief Mike Koval released new numbers saying the city has had 211 overdoses just so far this year. That's a 48% increase from this time last year.
So naloxone, also known as Narcan, has become a standard for first responders' uniforms, but as the demand for the life-saving drug goes up, so does the price. Our medical expert, Dr. Mandira Mehra, joins us this morning to talk about what this means for the opioid crisis. Good morning, Dr. Mehra.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
I think this is something that we have discussed before as far as Narcan and naloxone goes. This is a drug that can reverse overdoses, essentially.
Exactly.
But the price has gone up by like 6 times. What does this mean for that community that in recovery?
Yeah, this is such an important topic, and I know it's not the first time we're discussing this opiate epidemic. You know, unfortunately, it's become the leading cause of accidents accidental death in America. And you think, okay, car crashes and other accidents, maybe those are avoidable, but this is a really avoidable thing. And so naloxone, often known as Narcan, is something that blocks that opiate receptor and can reverse an overdose. So we're talking invaluable, completely life-saving for patients, emergency responders, doctors alike, even just people out in the community that may have other opiate or heroin addictions as well. But it comes at a cost. And of course, as the demand has gone up, because now it's recommended by the FDA, the CDC, that this be readily available,
Sure.
manufacturers have continued to rise the prices. So we're talking hundreds to thousands of dollars. And of course, this is a really generic medication. It's been available for over 20 to 30 years, so it's not a revolutionary medication. But of course, they're sold at, well, this is a new format, perhaps it's injectable, perhaps it's a nasal spray, things like that. And so usually some of them are available for even a couple hundred. Some insurances are covering it, some are not. But the problem is that when EMS needs it, a patient really needs it, it's not just so easy to afford.
It's really scary.
It is. Now we have to ask you about a new study out this morning that I think every Wisconsin person can get behind. This news that eating more butter and cheese can help you live longer.
Yep, here I am. So it's not all bad news. I usually am the bearer of bad news, and we say eat low fat and you know, limit your dairy consumption, your cheese consumption, don't clog those arteries. But here's a fun study. Here's some good news. So this study looked at over 130,000 patients, so a very large study in over 24 different countries, and it actually studied the benefits of the people that were eating high fat, that full fat, yogurt, cheese, dairy products. These people had less cardiovascular risk and less mortality, morbidity and mortality. So here's something that now shows us, you know what, maybe those French people eating those all-fat cheeses and all-fat milks, maybe they're onto something. So the guidelines haven't changed as of yet, but the CDC, the FDA is now looking at this and seeing, why was this beneficial? So obviously, if you have heart disease, if you have high risk factors, please talk to your physician. Don't just start eating butter, cheese, and lots of milk, but definitely talk to your physician. But this might be something that's going to change in the near future as we notice, you know what, maybe eating these high-fat content cheeses, dairy products in limited amounts does have some health benefits.
As you always say, everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. You got it.
Easily the best news of the day. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Great to be here.
It's good to see you. All right, your time right now is 6:18, and some of the people who know Madison's past better than, well, most people are going to be meeting later today to talk about Madison's future. We have a preview of that mayoral meeting. It's bringing three of the former leaders and one current one coming up after the break.
And you'd think we'd get sick of talking about how beautiful the weather's going to be. I'm not quite there yet. Soak it in, folks. Reminder, winter is coming up. Patty's going to talk about more sun first, though. Sun, when News 3 This Morning continues.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Hattie McLean. Skies are clear across all of southern Wisconsin. Take a live look from the Queen Bee Radio Skycam in Platteville as the sun comes up this morning. Another gorgeous day, just like yesterday. Satellite and radar is very quiet around here. We don't have anything showing up on the map. 56 degrees in Platteville this morning, 54 here in Madison, 58 in the Dells. Our bus stop weather forecast, you may want a light jacket or a sweatshirt as you head to school this morning. You definitely won't need it this afternoon. You'll be carrying it or stuffing it in your backpack. High temperatures will be near 80 later today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Hattie. So a task force looking at the way city government works here in Madison. We'll hear from some of the people who know that topic pretty well later today. 4 mayors of Madison, including current Mayor Paul Soglin, will be talking to the task force on the structure of city government this morning. Now, Mayor Soglin will be joined by former mayors Dave Chuch-Levis, Joel Skortica, and Joe Sensenbrenner. The task force has been meeting since February to take a look at powers and responsibilities of the mayor's office, common council, and other city boards and committees.
There is an opportunity tonight for you to weigh in on where Dane County should be spending its money for next year's budget. Folks from a number of county departments, from zoning and land to public works and transportation, will be at the City County building today for a public hearing on their 2019 budget. Board chairs say it's a great chance to give people who live here a say in spending priorities. That meeting starts at 6 this evening. Milwaukee's police chief is going to be talking to future lawyers today as Bucks player Sterling Brown moves forward with suing his department. The city attorney released a statement last month saying officers did nothing wrong when they tased and arrested Brown for parking illegally outside of Walgreens back in January. Brown was never charged in that case. He's since filed a civil suit against the police department and the city this summer. Chief Alfonso Morales openly apologized to Brown after that incident, saying the officers involved were retrained or disciplined. Chief Morales will be on the Marquette Law School campus today to talk about those issues at 12:15 this afternoon. Now, video from Brown's arrest sparked a lot of criticism for the Milwaukee Police Department. Later today, one of their sergeants is going to be at the state capitol talking about the use of police body cameras with a study committee there. That group of legislators is looking into making more uniform policies for taking and storing body camera footage and how it should be released to the public. 6:24 your time now. If you're in the market for a used car, listen up. Our Christina Laurie is live this morning. She's talking about how to avoid buying one that's been damaged by all the flooding we've seen here in Wisconsin.
And it may seem like obvious advice, but the state is asking people to stay out of water that looks or smells like manure. We'll tell you why and share the rest of the day's top stories when News 3 This Morning returns.
Candidate for governor Tony Evers is talking about how he'd fight the state's achievement gap the same week Governor Walker releases his own new ads on education.
And 3 weeks after hundreds of cars were stalled and left stranded here along the Beltline, they're starting to pop up at area used car dealerships. What to look for if you're in the market to buy to make sure you don't get a flood-damaged car.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 This Morning. It is 6:28 now on this Thursday, September 13th. And what Christina's talking about, that's a serious concern we forget about because it's so nice out. But even with Hurricane Florence hitting, we tend to see these cars travel. So we need to be watching out for those flooded out cars.
Yeah, and it'll be an ongoing concern here. What's not concerning is Hattie McLean's forecast because that is just gorgeous over and over and over again. Let's turn it over to her out on her Hattie-O patio enjoying it this morning. Good morning, Hads.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, you definitely shouldn't stress over this forecast at all. We have clear skies right now and beautiful conditions. Take a live look outside. Here is the WISC-TV sky cam as the sun comes up this morning. Official sunrise, 6:35, just a couple minutes from now. Skies are clear and winds are calm. Temperatures are in the 50s across southern Wisconsin, so it's a nice start to the day. Temps will warm back into the low 80s, just where we were yesterday. Skies turning partly sunny a little bit later on this afternoon. Just another beautiful day ahead. Now a look at your first alert traffic maps for the area. We're not seeing any accidents right now, which is great news, and no major delays showing up on the major routes in Madison. Might be a little slower than normal northbound on Verona Road in that construction zone, just adding a minute or two right now. And that's your first alert traffic.
Looking good. All right. Thanks, Hattie. After this summer's record rainfall here in Wisconsin and ahead of what could be the most costly storm to ever hit the U.S., there is a warning out about flood-damaged cars making their way onto used car parking lots.
Yeah, the big issue is that even if they work well at first, there could be major problems for those vehicles down the road. No pun intended. Christina Laurie is live along the Beltline this morning with some advice from AAA. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Danica and Leah. Now, AAA says this is a problem that we're going to see for months and years to come. Many of those cars that you saw stalled here along the Beltline 3 weeks ago are now popping up on resale shops. AAA says there are 4 common indicators of flood damage you should look for when buying a used car. First, check for the smell of damp and musty odors. If the carpet and upholstery has been recently cleaned or replaced, that could also be a sign of flood damage. Look for dirt and dried mud under the dashboard and the engine compartment and inside the trunk. And any rust or corrosion on the body and inside electrical connectors in your car could also be a giveaway. Besides mechanical and electrical problems, mold can also cause sanitary concerns and illnesses down the road. That's why it's smart to have a second set of eyes inspect your car before you buy it.
So it's important as car buyers in the next, really couple of years are buying used vehicles from the Madison area to check out and make sure that there aren't any damages that were never even reported. Bringing it to a mechanic, having them look through those systems like the electrical system to look for corrosion.
AAA also recommends that prospective buyers purchase a vehicle history report like the ones available from Carfax. While reports like that can't catch everything, they'll usually let you know if a car has been issued a salvage title, which I kind of like to think of as the car's criminal history. It'd give away any possible problems that car may have gotten into, like flood damage.
All right, good advice there from Christina. Christina Laurie reporting live for us. Thanks, Christina.
6:31 right now, and the DNR is warning everyone that mosquitoes could continue to be really bad through the summer if the standing water that we're seeing continues to just sit in places that are normally dry. Insect experts say mosquito larvae, known as wrigglers, tend to thrive in floodwaters, but the breeding ground can be as small as a backed up gutter, planter, or bird bath. The DNR is suggesting that you remove any containers that hold water from your property or at least empty them out a little more frequently. You should also clear weeds from edges of ponds where mosquitoes can hide. And there are natural mosquito larvicides out there as well. Those pellets are put into water to kill those pesky wrigglers and are harmless to people, pets, and wildlife. A Janesville man is in the Rock County Jail this morning after allegedly driving drunk with his 6-month-old baby in the car. 26-year-old Sydney Ivy was pulled over on Mineral Point Avenue. That's about a block west of Parker High School just before 8 o'clock yesterday morning. Now, police say Ivy failed field sobriety tests and was arrested for his 4th OWI. He also faces a tentative charge for obstruction because he allegedly lied to an officer about his identity.
Crews are working to clean up a massive manure spill on a farm on the Oneida Reservation. The 300,000-gallon spill outside Green Bay was reported on Monday, but it likely started the night before when a valve holding manure in an underbarn storage unit unexpectedly failed. That made it release most of the contents into the farm's main manure storage area. Now, since that storage was nearly full because of all the rain we've gotten recently, a lot of it overflowed into a nearby creek. Health officials are warning people not to swim, walk, or fish in streams in the area or in waters that look or smell like manure. The DNR says that spill also caused a number of fish in the creek to die.
A squirrel is to blame for a significant power outage in the Mount Horeb area last night. Alliant Energy says more than 1,700 customers around that area briefly lost power because a squirrel got into a substation and caused a transformer to fail. All customers have since had their power restored.
Mayor Paul Soglein's proposal to ban any new alcohol licenses downtown will be discussed this evening, just days after he vetoed a liquor license for another State Street restaurant. According to the State Journal, the city initially turned down a license for Koi Sushi because it illegally remodeled its restaurant. Council later approved the license once the space was restored back to its original condition. The paper reports Soglein called that license a great public liability that doesn't make sense. 14 of the 20 alders would be needed to overturn that veto.
State Superintendent Tony Evers is announcing plans to spend an additional $13 million on public schools if he's elected governor in November. Now, Wisconsin has had one of the largest achievement gaps between black and white students in the country as of late. And earlier this week, incumbent Governor Scott Walker tweeted that the gap has increased over the past 9 years that Evers has been in office as superintendent. Evers then said that he plans to spend that $13 million in the state's 5 largest districts. Those include Madison, Milwaukee, Racine, Green Bay, and Kenosha. Those districts tend to also have larger enrollments of minority students as well. Your time right now, 6:35, and Kimberly Clark is still waiting to hear if lawmakers will pass the tax incentive bill. They need to stay open. We'll have an update in the morning sprint.
And Middleton might be the latest city to add a new mode of transportation on its roads. We'll check in on the 2 wheels that might be headed their way when News 3 This Morning returns. Welcome back. We've been asking you to share your morning with us here on the program, and Peter sent us this picture from Washington Island. In case you needed a reason to go on vacation this weekend, maybe head up and check out the gorgeous lavender fields up there. Thank you so much for sending, Peter.
I could use some of that lavender, like really regain sense of smell after the stuffiness this week. That's all right. I could also just use a vacation at Door County. So, Peter, thank you for reminding me of all of those needs. What does your morning look like? Take a picture, post it on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram page, whatever it is. Use the hashtag MyNews3Morning, and we share our favorites every morning here on the program.
6:39 your time now. We want to update you on our Coats for Kids campaign here at News 3. We are up to 381 coats so far. You can pitch in and help kids in Dane County by donating your gently used winter coats, hats, mittens, or snow pants. Drop them off at any Clinky Cleaners or Lucier Family YMCA here in Dane County. If your kids are interested in getting involved, we'd love to have help from schools in our area as well. Those donations are due by October 6th. If your school holds a collection, be sure to contact us so we can give you a shout out.
Later today, there will be no more hunting for 85 uniquely decorated badgers. Those will be no longer sprinkled around the Madison area, sadly. The Bucky on Parade statues will be taken down starting at 7 o'clock this morning. So hurry, you have like 20 minutes. Do it. More than 2,000 people claim that they have tracked down all of those Buckies. There was a group of 10 who tried to knock them out in one day. You're seeing a woman here who's a cancer survivor who actually dressed up like each of the Buckies when she saw them. And a couple got engaged after finding them all. That's pretty cool. There are still tickets available, by the way, for the Bucky on Parade finale party that happens September 29th at the Kohl Center, where 30 of the statues will be auctioned off for charity.
So many neat stories there.
Yeah.
All right, Middleton city leaders are talking about adding some funding for a bike sharing system in town. The State Journal reports city staff are trying to figure out where B-cycle stations could go and how they'd get the funding to install them and keep up with the maintenance. The city administrator says they'll soon have more than 1,000 hotel rooms in town, and the bike sharing system could help get more people from there to the downtown area. The city's also considering B-Cycle's new smart bikes. Those come with a display for GPS navigation, and they can be locked without a docking station. All right, 6:40 your time now. We're holding on to summer and warm weather as long as we can here in Wisconsin. I said winter earlier, and Danica was not very happy about it.
Cringed.
Yeah. The temperature this morning, right around mid-50s. It's only going to go up from there. Hattie says we're breaking into the 80s today. She's got your forecast coming up.
First, though, if you have a little kiddo turning 3 soon, please let us know so we can show their picture on TV. And thank you so much for watching News 3 this morning.
Look who
We're taking a live look right now at Emerald Isle in North Carolina, a very wet dock there this morning. I have been there on vacation, so I can vouch that the ocean does not typically look so angry, as Hattie just put it during the commercial break. Hurricane Florence is expected to make landfall sometime tonight into tomorrow there. Hattie has a much calmer forecast for us coming up in just a moment.
Back home, a Middleton-based company is in the running to reach icon status. American Girl is one of the 12 toys on the list for the National Toy Hall of Fame. It could be joining Lego, Monopoly, and the Rubik's Cube there. Now, some of the other toys up for nomination include the Chutes and Ladders board game, Uno, and Chalk, some pretty tough competitors. You can go online to vote now for whichever toy you think meets the criteria of longevity, discovery, innovation, and icon status. We have that link over on channel3000.com.
A sculptor named Robert Indiana is celebrating a Wisconsin staple with his art. This brat sculpture will be unveiled today to mark what would have been that artist's 90th birthday. It uses similar red letter design as his famous love sculpture that's over in New York City. It was commissioned by Shelley and Ralph Stayer, that is, who own Johnsonville. It will be placed right across the street from the company's headquarters in Sheboygan Falls.
We're making me hungry at 6:45 in the morning. Great evening to grill out, though, Hattie.
Yeah, for us here, we have very quiet weather, but let's start with Florence. It is a Category 2 storm about 200 miles off the shore to the east-southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina right now. Sustained winds, maximum sustained winds, that is, 110 miles an hour. This storm, though, stretches 400 miles across, so it's a very large storm, even though it has weakened some over the last 24 hours. It is moving to the northwest at 15 miles an hour. That movement is expected to continue, but it will slow down through the day today. Now, precipitation potential by 2 o'clock. We're already starting to see some of those outer rain bands move onshore. Rain adds up pretty quickly after that. And here's a look at precipitation potential through Monday morning. You're seeing those bright yellow shaded colors extending all the way into North Carolina. 15 to 25 inches is that yellow shaded area. Could see isolated amounts up to 40 inches possible with this hurricane. That will create a deadly storm surge as well. Here's a look at some of the areas that are most at risk. The bright red shaded areas inland, greater than 9 feet above the ground. The maximum storm surge predicted for this storm is 13 feet above ground if it makes landfall at high tide. Here is a look at Doppler track. You can see the spinning of the storm, the counterclockwise circulation, those bands getting pretty close to the Outer Banks at this hour. That is the main storm on the map this morning. Elsewhere, things are pretty quiet across the midsection of the country. Hardly any rain showing up across the area. There is a system moving across southern Canada that will stay well to our north. Keeping an eye on some of this cloud cover, though, it's tough to pick out. These are very low clouds to the ground. They are advancing to the north and west, though. They may clip parts of southeastern Wisconsin today. A little bit of cloud cover in this shot by Leanne. She sent this picture in earlier this morning. Our sunrise today. Beautiful shot. Thanks for sharing. 54 degrees here in Madison, 58 in the Dells. Mineral Point, you're starting the day at 57 degrees. Dew points have been low, and they'll stay relatively comfortable through the day. Some indications, though, are that those dew points may creep into the mid-60s for a short time this afternoon. That'll make it feel just a little bit on the humid side. Your pinpoint city forecast highs today are in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. Again, some cloud cover to the east may keep temps down there, but 79 in Fort Atkinson, 79 in Evansville today. Maybe see some 80s on the map to the west, 80 in Prairie du Chien, 81 in Muscoda today. And to the north, still lots of sunshine. Baraboo, you'll top at a high of 79 degrees. Here in Madison, our forecast high is 81. We did hit 81 yesterday, so I think we'll do it once again today. We'll stay in the low 80s then through the weekend, right into the start of next week. Rain chances are still in the forecast, though, starting on Tuesday. Here's a look at our pet walk forecast. Brutus, the Frenchie. What a look. I think Brutus is in the sink.
It looks like Brutus is in the sink, ready for a bath.
Bath time, maybe?
Now, what I want to know is if they have a cat named Caesar.
I don't know.
That would be cute.
You better put the I-team on it.
All right, thanks, Hattie.
You're welcome. That was an incredible comment. Well done, well done. The Morning Sprint's coming up next right here on News 3 This Morning. Time now for the morning sprint. Hattie has low 80s and sunshine straight through the weekend.
And Christina Laurie has a live report on how to avoid flood-damaged cars that might hit the market from all the rain we saw here in Wisconsin and even from Hurricane Florence. First, though, we start with an update on that flooding here in Madison. Lake Monona is going down this morning, but city leaders say it's still 5 inches above the 100-year lake level. They're asking homeowners along the water to keep their sandbags in place for now. All 3 boat launches over in the city of Monona are still closed today, and a slow no-wake order also remains in effect.
Madison police are using security footage from the Monona Terrace to track down the person who stole 7 pumps along Lake Monona earlier this week. That stretch of the Capital City Trail near the terrace is back open after being closed until the afternoon rush hour Wednesday. Now, the city spent $1,000 to replace the water pumps that went missing overnight Tuesday.
There's a reminder from emergency management officials this morning to report flood damage if you haven't done so already. Counties are going to submit their final reports to the state by Monday, which means they'll be working over the next few days to finish assessments. Those reports will help decide which areas are eligible for federal disaster aid. You can call 211 or contact your county's emergency management director to report any damage on your property.
Surfacing at used car dealerships around town 3 weeks after many stalled and were left stranded here along the Beltline. Some of those cars run just fine now, but may not for long. Floodwater is corrosive and abrasive and can cause damage to a car's electrical and mechanical systems in both the short and long term. It can also cause mold to grow, spreading germs and illnesses down the road. Buyers should beware that flood-damaged cars can be shipped anywhere for resale and continue to appear on the market for months and possibly years following major floods.
Thank you, Christina. There could be many more cars entering that market once Hurricane Florence makes landfall. It's now a Category 2 system expected to hit the East Coast as soon as tonight. More than 10 million people are under storm watches or warnings this morning. North Carolina's governor has told the million or so people under evacuation orders that they're on their own if they choose to stay. He will be on CBS this morning to talk about preparations for Florence after 7.
By contrast, our forecast is dry and sunny here across southern Wisconsin. Sun is up this morning. Skies are clear here in Madison. Take a look at our temperatures and winds over the next 12 hours. A light southeasterly wind today. Looks like high temperatures will be at 81 this afternoon. And that's your First Alert forecast.
Thanks, Hattie. 6 people, including the gunman, are dead after a shooting in Bakersfield yesterday. That's about 90 miles north of Los Angeles. Officers there say a man killed his wife and 2 others at a trucking business in town, then went to another home and killed a man and a woman there before turning the gun on himself. There's no word yet on a motive, but the county sheriff says the shootings were not random.
Madison police are looking for whoever's behind shots fired on the Near East Side overnight. Officers responded to East Mifflin Street just off East Washington around 2:30 this morning. They believe a 27-year-old man was the target of this attempted shooting. They did find a shell casing nearby, but no one was hurt and police did not find any damage.
Jeff Fager is out as the head of CBS's 60 Minutes this morning. CBS News reports the executive producer was fired after sending a threatening text to one of its own reporters who was working on a story about the sexual misconduct allegations against him. CBS News president David Rhodes said Fager had violated company policy with that text. Fager denies the allegations against him. He was fired before an investigation was finished.
Paper company Kimberly-Clark is still waiting to hear whether it will receive tax incentives to keep factories open in the Fox Valley area. It announced plans to close locations back in January if it did not get state help. The Assembly has already passed the bill that would grant those incentives, but there's not a lot of support in the Senate. Opponents say the bill won't solve bigger issues like transportation costs.
There could be a new apartment unit coming to a busy area in Janesville thanks to a new policy that gives developers a shot at incentives. The Common Council revised the city's TIF policy on Monday, making development plans outside of the downtown area eligible for more money. Since then, one company says it's interested in opening a 250-unit apartment complex just off I-90 there. The new TIF regulations are set to expire in 5 years unless the council extends them.
Packers head coach Mike McCarthy will be badgered again by reporters later today who want to know whether Aaron Rodgers will play against Minnesota on Sunday. You may remember Rodgers had to be carted off during the game against the Bears and then at halftime came back and won the game for the team. Rodgers sat out of practice yesterday, but he says the franchise doesn't need practice time to be ready for Sunday. He is not committed to taking the field.
6:56 your time. Now let's turn it over to Josh Tim with a look at your First Alert traffic. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. The westbound Beltline already getting crowded. Slowdown showing up between Stoughton Road and West Broadway. It's going to add a few-minute delay. The usual brake lights on inbound John Olin at the Olin and North Shore Drive intersections as you move into the downtown area. And other main routes, including on the interstate, are heading into Madison, are cruising along at the usual speeds with no crashes or delays. With your first alert traffic, I'm Josh Tim.
Thanks, Josh.
And we have a beautiful start to this Friday Eve. Clear skies across the area. You can see sun in downtown Madison. Our temperatures today will climb from the 50s back into the low 80s this afternoon. Skies turn partly sunny. The nice forecast continues right into the upcoming weekend. Temperatures will top in the low 80s through Monday with dry weather expected. And some rain chances are back in the forecast on Tuesday and again Wednesday and Thursday. Some early indications that we may cool down a little bit as we head towards the end of next week.
Can't complain about an extended forecast like that, Hattie.
No, 80s in September, pretty good.
Pretty impressed.
No more Bucky hunting, though, to be
Yeah.
had. Starting at 7 o'clock, so in a few minutes, you have a few minutes to catch them. There's going to be start to take them out of their spots. Have a good one.
Making plans that are weather dependent? Get an accurate 12-hour, even a 10-day forecast. Download the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather app and start planning.